When Benchley's first published fiction novel, Jaws, was greeted with instant success in 1974 and quickly became a phenomenon following the release of Steven Spielberg's filmic adaptation the following year, Benchley found himself being looked upon as an expert in oceanography and aquatic life. Such was the authority and detail which Jaws had been written with. In reality, the writer's strong connection and identification with the ocean was one born more out of desperation than expertise. Benchley, who was born in New York City on May 8, 1940, spent his early writing career working as a reporter for the Washington Post, followed by a stint in New York as a television editor for Newsweek. In 1967, he moved back to Washington with his wife, Winifred Wesson, becoming a White House speechwriter for President Lyndon B. Johnson during America's turbulent Vietnam War years. Following the completion of Johnson's term in 1969, Benchley and Wesson, along with their young children Tracy and Clayton, settled into a small house in Pennington, New Jersey, so he could remain close to the New York editors. At the time, Benchley was writing out of a rented room situated above a furnace supply company. While Benchley had one non-fiction book under his belt, his 1964 travel memoir Time and a Ticket, based on the world travel he took upon graduating college, he entered the 1970s struggling to support himself and a family with his writing income alone. In 1971, he told himself that he would make one final attempt at making it as an author, and had his agent arrange interviews with any publishers who would listen. The writer pitched two potential story ideas. One was for a non-fiction book about pirates. The other was a fictional story about a monster shark that begins to terrorize a beachfront community. Benchley had found his inspiration for the latter in a news item about a fisherman who caught a 4,500-pound great white shark off the coast of Long Island in 1964. While that particular shark was not known to have attacked or killed anyone, Benchley wondered what might happen if one did, and then refused to go away while the feeding was good. Thomas Congdon, then editor at Doubleday, saw potential in Benchley's shark idea and fronted the author $1,000 to go off and write the first 100 pages. While Congdon wasn't entirely happy with the pages Benchley gave him, they would have to be rewritten, he saw enough there to give him the go-ahead to continue. When Benchley delivered his completed manuscript, he admits to having low expectations for it, but Congdon thought differently, and he began to send advance copies to various paperback publishers and the Book of the Month Club. The latter gave the book an A rating, qualifying it for main selection, while Reader's Digest also singled it out. The positive response caused Doubleday to delay publication of the novel so they could more carefully plan a big promotional push around it. Jaws finally saw the shelves as a hardcover in February of 1974, followed by the book club editions and then as a Bantam paperback. The title of the book was only decided at the last minute, with a list of possibilities that included The Stillness in the Water, Leviathan Rising, and The Jaws of Death all being considered before it was wisely decided that a short, sharp, and memorable title would work best. Despite mixed reviews from the critics, Jaws struck a raw nerve with readers and would go on to occupy the bestsellers list for an incredible 44 weeks, selling over 5 million copies in the United States alone by the time the film adaptation opened in June of 1975. The film adaptation of Benchley's novel began to take shape almost immediately. Richard D. Zanuck and David Brown, a production team at Universal Studios, both read the book at the same time, without each other's knowledge, and both instantly agreed it would make an incredible motion picture experience, even if they weren't yet sure how they would actually be able to film it. The pair purchased the film rights for a relatively low $15,000, jumping on the book before the hype around it had only started. Zanuck and Brown entrusted the job of bringing Jaws to the screen to the young and still relatively inexperienced Steven Spielberg. Spielberg, who was looking for a film to follow up his first theatrical feature, The Sugarland Express, recalls first thinking Jaws was a pornographic film about a dentist when he first heard the title. Spielberg's natural director's eye, along with youthful energy and daring exuberance, combined well with the experience of Zanuck and Brown, and Jaws the film became a box office phenomenon across the globe, setting a template for the big summer blockbuster that is still being followed today. To adapt the book into a workable screenplay, Spielberg turned to both Benchley himself as well as Carl Gottlieb, who was mostly known for his television work until that point. Howard Sackler and John Milius also contributed some uncredited work to the screenplay, with Milius providing the famous monologue about the USS Indianapolis, which Robert Shaw's Quint character delivers so effectively in the film. Together, Gottlieb and Benchley crafted an adventure story that was as thrilling as it was terrifying, and as intimate as it was epic, and brought to life by the strong cast assembled, which apart from Shaw also included Roy Scheider, Richard Dreyfuss and Lorraine Gary. With echoes of The Old Man and the Sea, the 1958 film based on the Ernest Hemingway novella added to the narrative, the Jaws screenplay did the right commercial thing by making the main characters a lot more likeable than they were in the novel. Indeed, many of the book's negative reviews pointed out that the shark was the most likeable character in it. The film also wisely omitted the affair between Ellen Brody, the chief's wife, and oceanographer Matt Hooper. In perhaps a little show of nepotism, Benchley was given a brief role in the film, playing a television reporter, which he does quite convincingly. While Benchley had estimated that he made enough from Jaws to support himself and his family for a good 10 years, the pressure and expectation was heavy when it came to writing his next novel. Jaws would be a mighty tough act to follow.